Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson Wood. I'm your host on Teaching with Board Games, here to do a fun activity with you today. It's something a little bit different, as you might have already guessed, seeing as I'm on the computers rather than at my game table. Today I'm going to be showing you about how to create an online escape room. So escape rooms, whether you've done it or not, you probably are familiar with the idea. I myself actually have never done an escape room as much as I've wanted to. It's just something I've never done, and I'm gonna have to change that one of these days. But in an escape room, you and presumably some friends are locked in a room with a bunch of different clues and things hidden around the room, and it's depending on the theme of the room. Different rooms have different themes, different challenges, but the idea is that there's a series of clues that you have to figure out. So it's a series of intellectual challenges that lead you from one thing to the next, and you then find your way out of the room. So in this, you're going to be using, as you might have guessed, Google Forms to create a series of challenges which the students have to answer in a sequential order in order to successfully find their way, quote unquote, out of the room. Now, this can be themed in a bunch of different ways. Now, I will be including in the notes section down below a copy of a an escape room that I did with my students just recently. I did it first last year, and I did it again with them this year because it relates to my science unit on conservation of energy. So it's all about renewable and non-renewable resources, and I call this one "Stop the Billionaires." It's all about the billionaires and their non-renewable resources trying to milk money out of us, and while we are good people and trying to look for ways to, promote the use of renewable resources, and eventually, eventually having the students hack into the billionaires' computers and redistribute their money to worthy charities and whatever. But obviously, that doesn't happen. But it's the idea of just these little challenges that they're doing in between, and it's just a fun way to learn, to reinforce some of these concepts and things like that. Now, as you do this, like as I say, in an escape room, you're in there with a bunch of your friends, so you're all working cooperatively together to figure this out. Now, there's nothing, if that's the way you want to structure your game room for this, absolutely, students can work together. What it's going to require, though, is that one student is answering the questions and typing the things in, or maybe there's one computer where they're typing the answers in and seeing if they can move forward. That's definitely something that could work. What I've done, though, is I had that every student did it individually. So every student had their own computer and just had to type in the answers and work their way through the problems themselves. And it was designed and structured in that way so students were working on it individually. But, whatever works for you. I mean, this is, I'll show you the idea of how this works, how it's set up, and you can just sort of go with it and have some fun with it, because I'm just going to show you some very basic ideas of kinds of things that I've done, and you can take it from there and see what works for you. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Forms. I'm just going to create a blank form here. So as you come into the form, you're going to get this thing, and I'm just going to change the name here. I'm just going to change this to Escape Room, if I can type, and an online escape room for your class. Okay, so I mean, obviously, again, call it whatever you want. We're not going to worry about these other things right now. These settings should be fine for now. Actually, depending on how you do it, one setting you might want to do is just make sure, one other thing I like to do is I like to collect the students' email addresses. That way I know who has done it, who participated in this. In this one, the students are going to be, if you want to do the email addresses, they will then submit their email address into that spot, and that way you will know who has done what. And it's also going to tabulate for you their scores on this, and what questions they answered, how they answered it, etc. So the questions then come to this part here, where you're going to, now what I'll start off here with is I'll add a question. Okay, I'm going to add a new section. So the big trick here is to divide this into the section. So what looks like the equal sign down here, the two parallel lines, two parallel rectangles, is the important button here. This is the adding the sections, because in order for it to be successful, you don't want the students to be able to see the whole thing all at once. You want them to answer question 1, and only when they answer question 1 correctly will they move on to question 2. And when they answer question 2 correctly, then they'll move on to question 3, and so on and so on and so on. What's important here is that the students have to get it exactly right. They can't have misspelled it even by one letter. They cannot misspell it even by one uppercase or lowercase letter. Everything has to be exactly the way you put the answers in, because if it's not, then they're not going to move forward. That's a very important distinction. So make sure they know, if you're talking about like proper nouns, like if you're saying like depending on the theme that you want to give it, I might give it a little name like know your country. And then I'm going to add a question in here. So the question might be, what is the capital city of Canada? And instead of making multiple choice, I made all of mine short answer questions. And so that way the students have to type something in, whether it's a number or whether it's a word or a sentence or whatever, they had to type something in. And so it's a short answer. Now, you're going to say required, again, because they have to answer this question before they move on to the next one. So it's definitely required. And then for the 3 dots just to the next here, just make sure you click it, click the description, and the response validation. All right. Okay, well, I guess you don't need the description, but the response validation is very important because that's where you're going to put in your answer. This is how Google Forms is going to know that the students have given the correct answer. So in this case, capital city of Canada, they're going to have to answer in text form, and it's going to contain the text Ottawa. And that's going to be it. Until they answer that, they're not going to move on to the next one. So now I'll add another section. So now I have another one down here. So this is going to be, so instead of adding questions, you're adding sections, each section, because you see here, after section 2, you're going to go on to continue to the next section. So it's going to go into section 3. And you can just give this one a little heading, a little fun description, but I'm going to call this math skills. Basic multiplication. I mean, I'm just doing this to show you how to create these, and you can, as I say, go and have, you can theme these to make it more fun. You can make a little story, a little description of what they're doing here, why they have to figure out this thing, or maybe there's some text that they have to read and understand, like maybe a brain teaser or a riddle or something that will give them where they're looking for the answer. So then for here, then I'm going to add the question to this, and the question, what is 4 times 3? All right, I did say it was basic multiplication. And again, I'm making a short answer, and it's required, and I'm making a response validation. It's a number, and it's equal to 12. And that's it. So now that one's set up. So let me show you an example of another way you could do it. Like I said, you could do a short description of something, or something where they have to read carefully. So I might call this one riddle me this. And so a plane crashes right on the border of the United States and Canada. There were 120 people on the plane, and half of them died because they were right on the border. Where do they bury the survivors? Now the trick with this one is just if they don't get the phrasing exactly correct, it's going to be, oh, sorry, so that actually is going to come out of there and it's going to go into the question here. Now with any of these as well, sorry, one thing I'm going to try to jump back on, you can always click this little, let me, looks like a Polaroid here, a little picture. You can click that. You can always be adding in images to these to make it more visually appealing. So you should, that's something good to look at. So we can put in like a picture of a flag here. Did it go in? No, it didn't. There we go. Okay, so that's just going to look a little nicer. With this one, I don't necessarily want to look up pictures of plane crashes. So let's just get right onto this one. We're going to make this one again, short answer. It's required and with a response validation, which is a text contains you do not bury survivors. Okay, so the problem with one like this kind of question with this kind of answer is that, you know, if they don't put the capital Y, if they do not put this phrase exactly the same way, you do not bury survivors, then it's not going to let them pass. So you really need to be careful about how your answer is and how it's worded, and just make sure, you know, with this one, even though I'm pretty fussy with my students, I might say no capitals unless absolutely necessary. Like with Ottawa would be capitalized because it's the name of a city, but you might just have that one just so that way it's you just say just keep it all lowercase, keep it simple. Okay, so you know, you could do that kind of thing. One other fun one I did is I did ones with jigsaw puzzles. So in this one, I'm having the students do an online jigsaw puzzle, and there's something in the puzzle that's a clue that they're then going to need to find a wording or something in there to then supply the answer for this. So what is the message on the protesters banner? So what I'm doing now is I'm just copied and pasted this from my other one. So it has this jigsaw puzzle thing here. So the students will then have to solve the jigsaw puzzle in order to solve it. So again, I'm going to give it a short answer question. Required response validation is text, and then I would put in the message for that. So let's just quickly take a look here. I'm just going to copy and paste this URL into my bar here and just show you what this one's about. So this one is coming into a jigsaw puzzle. So like I'm saying, the students then have to solve this one. And you, nice little satisfying click when it comes together. Okay. And all right, so stop funding climate change. So coming back into here, I would say, and again, just tell the students it's all lowercase, so they don't have to worry about which ones is lowercase and not lowercase. And you're looking back to the picture, you see that the and make sure you spell it properly, because that'd be bad if they're spelling it properly and you didn't, because then they'd never get past. Because yeah, they did it all in capitals, so I mean, you do it that way too. But however you do it, just make sure the students know what the expectation is. All right, so this is a few things here. So I mean, you like I showed you, you can do like a simple word problem, like what is this? Like what is the capital of this? What is you can do a jigsaw puzzle. You could do a picture problem, like look at something and identify something from the picture. You could do a you could have them like look up something, like do a Google search. Like I told the students sometimes, like I for one of the questions I asked them about like the Athabasca tar sands and what is our resource are they getting out of there. Well, we hadn't talked about the Athabasca tar sands, but they were on a computer, so I just said look it up. That's what you're supposed to do. So some things require some searching, some things require some problem solving. There's all kinds of different ways you could be doing this to investigate and have them, exploring and doing different kinds of problems, fun problems like the jigsaw puzzles and other fun things you can find online. Like I said, the ideas are limitless. You just have to put the URL in there, and they just copy and paste the URL into the thing, and off they go to this they want to look at. So let me just show you now what this would look like in here. So you'd be coming into here, and you'd be putting in your email address, or this is not my actual email address, boardgames@gmail.com. Okay, and it's getting into here. So what's the capital of Canada? So if I say something like Toronto, and I say next, so just bouncing back again now. So what I needed to do is, you saw the first time it said that, needs to have Ottawa. So it gave the answer away. So going back to the thing here, where you have the option for a custom text for the answers. So like for these, the custom error text, you can just put in something like, nope, try again, incorrect. You tell them what to say, otherwise it's going to give away the answer. So make sure you do change that. That's one thing I'd forgotten there. So try again. Sudbury. Next, try again. Okay, Ottawa. And it kind of will clue to the students too, that when you get the right answer, that error message disappears right away. And now I go on to the next one. So now it's taking me out to the next question. What is 4 times 3? 12. Okay, so if I say it's 1, next, nope. 12, next. Okay, and you don't bury survivors. And see, this is if they're using contractions, even if they're using the apostrophe correctly, it's not going to get it. And so again, like I would need to change the answer on that one, make it the custom text answer, so it's not giving away the answer. But that's going to be it. You go through a series of these questions until you come to a point where you feel that you want to stop. May take a few times to sort of fine tune the timing of it. Like, is it going to be fast? Is it going to be too fast? Is it going to be too slow? Or is the students going to need more time than what you're giving them? It's going to take some practice. It's going to take some figuring out. But you'll get there. And like I say, there's just all kinds of different fun things you could be doing with this online. And it's you could do it as groups. You could do this as a class. You could do this as individuals. And all kinds of different ways you could do it. But this is it. You just do it with the Google Forms, and make sure you do those sections. Make sure you do those custom answers and the required answers. Follow those steps I showed you, and you'll do just fine. And if you'd like to share any of your ideas of how you're using Google Forms and what kinds of things you're doing for the escape room, please leave me that message in the comment section below. Would love to know from you how you are using them, how you are creating and making wonderful room escapes with for your students, and share your ideas so that we can all learn from it. And that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Until next time, I am Craig Thompson Wood, your host on Teaching with Board Games, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school?